Welcome to Motkar channel. If you're learning English, you probably know there are dozens of seemingly simple phrases that can really trip you up. They just defy literal translation.
Mm-hmm. They really do.
So today we're doing a deep dive into one of those, the very specific idiom, jar on.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We've pulled out the key nuggets of knowledge from our source material. The idea is you get a quick, practical linguistic shortcut.
Exactly. And we'll use a mix of conversational English and Indonesian to help make it stick.
Our goal isn't just, definition. It's understanding how it's used.
Right, because learners often hit these phrasal verbs, like you take a simple verb like jar, add a preposition like on, and suddenly the meaning just completely shifts.
And we need to analyze that shift, not just memorize a definition.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's dig in. The source jumps right into the root word jar before we even get to the on part.
Yeah, the literal meaning. It says it can mean a harsh sound. You'd say suara kasar in Indonesian.
Okay, swar kasar.
Or something that's contradictory, that clashes bertentangan.
Right, bertentangan. So a physical harshness or clash.
That's the foundation. That feeling of jar is fundamentally physical, like a sudden, sharp disruption. Striking a bad note on an instrument, maybe?
Okay, that makes sense physically. But how does that jump from a physical thing like a sound to an emotional state?
Ah, that's the interesting part.
Why does that physical clash become a feeling of, say, social discomfort? Or ketidaksesuaian, incompatibility?
Well, that's the power of metaphor and language, isn't it? When we use the full idiom, jar on, it takes that physical clash idea and applies it psychologically or socially. So the source says it means mengganggu, which is like disturbing.
Disturbing.
Or menjengkelkan, annoying.
Annoying, okay.
But maybe more fundamentally, tidak selaras dengan sesuatu, kind of out of sync, not in harmony with something.
Not in harmony. I like that.
And what really makes jar on distinct, I think, is that the disturbance feels grating.
Yeah.
It genuinely disrupts harmony. It mengganggu harmoni.
So it's not just like a minor irritation.
No, exactly. It's something
Yeah.
that kind of vibrates negatively with you. It feels wrong.
So we use jar on specifically when something feels, well, fundamentally wrong or dissonant in its context, deeper than just being irritated.
Precisely. You've got it. Let's look at the context our source gives us.
Yeah.
It makes it clear. The first one is actually pretty close to that original physical definition. Oral disruption. Sound.
Okay, let's do the Indonesian first, as many of our listeners might connect with that initially. The sentence is, suara musik keras itu benar-benar menjengkelkan telingaku.
Right. And the corresponding English is, the loud music really jars on my ears.
Jars on my ears.
See, you could say annoys my ears, but jars on carries that extra weight. It suggests the sound isn't just annoying, it's actively unpleasant, discordant, harsh on the senses.
That distinction feels important. Okay, so example 2 moves into the social sphere. This is where it gets more metaphorical, describing incompatibility, right?
Exactly. This is where the idiom often shows its real utility.
Okay, the Indonesian example. Sikap sombongnya sangat mengganggu suasana di antara teman-temannya.
That feeling of grating dissonance applied to behavior.
So how does that translate?
We'd say, his arrogant attitude jars on the atmosphere among his friends.
Jars on the atmosphere. Interesting.
Yeah. It means his behavior is creating this active discomfort, this persistent feeling of ketidaksesuaian, It throws the whole social dynamic off kilter.
It definitely paints a much more vivid picture than just saying his attitude is annoying or bad. It describes the effect it has, creates an unpleasant environment.
Absolutely. So for you, the learner, the thing to really lock onto is that jar on is used for situations where something makes people tidak nyaman uncomfortable.
Right.
Because it feels incompatible or disrupts an expected harmony. It could be musical, emotional, social. It really elevates the description from simple annoyance to fundamental dissonance.
Okay, I think we've managed to take this single kind of tricky idiom and really unpack its metaphorical roots and its specific function pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a good example of how English uses these phrasal verbs.
That was a pretty efficient deep dive into one of English's more evocative phrasal verbs.
And maybe that raises an important question for you to think about after this. We saw how jar totally changes its function just by adding on. So what other common English verbs do you know that completely change or drastically shift their meaning when you pair them specifically with on?
Oh, that's a good challenge.
Yeah, start paying attention to those combinations. They really are keys to unlocking more fluent, natural-sounding conversational English.
Definitely some food for thought there. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe.